So hi guys, today we are going to discuss about ERD modeling. So ERD modeling is tool independent concept. That means what? Whether you use Oracle or SQL Server or DB2 or any other RDBMS tool doesn't matter to us, which is a tool independent concept. Okay? So ERD modeling, the purpose of ERD modeling is which will tell you how the data is organized in a given system. Okay. So before understanding ERD modeling, let us understand this. I have a business domain. Business domain, let me say, uh, I have business domain. So let me say a banking. So everybody easily they can understand. So banking is one business domain. So you have hospitality is one more business domain. Insurance is one more business domain. Okay. Travel and tourism there is another business domain. Like that, we have lots and lots of business domains. Okay, any bank and ask for, now we're talking about banking, right? So you can go to any bank and ask for, sir, how do I open an account in your bank? So you're asking a question called, how do I open an account? Okay, how do I open an account? When you say how, the banker would explain what is known as a process. Okay, the banker would explain what is known as a process. That means, how do I open an account? He would tell you the process. Sir, how do I close an account? He will again tell you the process. Sir, how do I transfer funds from my account to my father's account? Again, the banker would tell you a process. Okay, now one more question, sir, what all you need to open an account? So that means you are asking one more question, what all you need to open an account? Okay, when you say what, the banker will tell you the data. Means what data you need to open an account. Okay, so one set of people will tell you the process when you ask how. The other set of people, when you ask what, they would tell you the data. We need your name, your address, your PAN card number, your address proof, everything to open an account. That means the banker is telling the data, we need this data to open an account. But when you say, sir, how do I, close an account? Then he will tell you, this is the process you have to follow to close an account. It means if you take whether banking or insurance or hospital or health, tourism, anything you take, you have only two things to understand. If somebody is saying we are automating, we are computerizing our business, if anybody says like that, then only two things you need to capture. One is that you have to capture the process for them, and you have to capture the data of the business. Okay, when you capture the process as well the data, okay, though this is where you work as a IT engineer. So IT industry is working, IT industry is here. So IT industry is automating the process of a given company, and IT industry is automating the data of a given company. That means process plus data. This is what is IT is doing for you. A process and the data, both of them will be automated by the IT companies. Whether you take Microsoft, whether you take Infosys, whether you take Wipro, Google, you take anything in this world, that they're working for a user. So when they say they're working for a user, the IT companies are doing only two activities: working towards process side or they're working towards data side. When they're working towards process side, they have to use languages like C and C++, Java.NET. Okay. So to automate the process, we have to have a language .NET. That means either you have to work towards, process, or you may work towards the data side. So whenever you say data, the data is captured in RDBMS or any other tool. Any other RDBMS. It could be a Oracle here. Could be SQL Server here, be DB2, MySQL, which could be Teradata. All these are different RDBMS tools you may use. You may use. That means a business domain, when you plan to automate or computerize a business domain, that means you're capturing their processes and you're capturing their data. That is what you're doing. So that means when you're working for a Wipro company or when you're working for a Infosys company, you are indirectly you have to know C, C++, Java, .NET when you want to work with process of the domain. Or you should know the data of a company to understand this. Okay. Now, if, for example, you take SAP, the SAP is also a application. The SAP data is stored in Oracle. Or if you take mainframe data is stored in DB2. Okay. If you take Java always recommends Oracle as backend. Like that, if you take any application, the application is separate. The Java, C, C++, everything. Then the data is separate. Okay. So both of them are captured separately. But when you integrate them, that is nothing but an application for them. You take a ICICI Bank website or net banking of HDFC Bank. So the net banking will have lots of processes. For example, as you said, sir, I want to transfer funds to you. So you have to follow some process. You have to enter my number and you have to see whether you have sufficient funds or not. When everything is perfect, you click on next button so that the process will send funds from your account to my account. Okay, so the process needs is lots of steps and each one will carry some data. Okay, so this is what any IT industry would do for you. So IT industry is always there to automate a company's processes. It is there to automate company's data. But the question is, how do I understand a banking each and every process? For example, cash withdrawal is a process. Cash deposit is another process. Check deposit is another process. Check cancelling is another process. Applying for credit card is another process. How do I understand each and every process of a company? The company could be a bank here. Bank can be ICICI Bank, HDFC. So how do I do that? So to understand a company's process, you have to follow a process. Okay. The process is known as DFD. DFD means data flow diagram. Data flow diagram. Okay. Which is a process. What is the purpose of DFD? DFD is used to understand a company's process. For example, I would like to understand how the funds will be sent from one account to another. You give me a diagram. So that diagram will explain you the process. Okay. So the DFD will be a diagram like that. I would like to, understand a company's data, but how do I understand? Is there any process? Yes, the process is called, ERD. ERD stands for Entity Relationship. So you have two, processes. These two processes would give you a diagrams for you. DFD will tell you how is the process is there. So the DFD diagram will give you detailed picture how your process is there in the company. The ERD means entity relationship diagram, which will also tell you how the data is organized in a business. For example, when you want to capture the data of a bank, you don't know what kind of data they're capturing and what kind of relationships they have, and what kind of uh, association is available with each and every data. That's very difficult for you to understand as a layman. But when you understand ERD, you should be able to clearly understand how the company's data is organized and what is the data actually a banking is capturing from a end user and what is the data a bank is giving to the end user. All of them you can easily understand. Okay, so ERD a diagram and DFD is also diagram. Now, when you want to construct a house, then definitely you would go in for a diagram. The diagram will tell you how to construct the. It will give you the design. Before constructing the house, you would go for the architect. The architect take the requirements and he would give you a building plan. So what is the purpose of building plan? Because which will tell you how the building going to be. Okay, so who can understand building plan? It is for you, and it is for the builder and the labor, and it is for all stakeholders of the project. Now DFD for whom? DFD for the client, DFD for you, for me, for manager. Alage, like that, you have also ERD. ERD is also for everybody. Okay, all the diagrams are, for all stakeholders, not only for the technical people, non-techies also can understand diagrams. So our work always will start with the diagrams, whether it is constructing a house or whether it is building a software for any company. Okay, so the diagrams are done by architects or the designers. So since we are not, and we are not going through the processes, so we are not understanding C, C++, Java.NET. So let us leave DFD. Let us understand it ERD only because ERD for the data. We are not, learning C, C++, Java.NET here. So forget about DFD. Okay. Now ERD modeling is entity relationship approach developed by Dr. Peter Chen in 1976. Charles Beckman and James Martin have added some slight modifications to basic ERD principles. So what is the purpose of ERD? The purpose of ERD is you know why ERD means it is used to capture or understand and capture a given. So this is the purpose. That means what? If I say banking, the banking, how data is organized, what are the data they're capturing, you can easily understand in the form of a diagram, and you can capture the data, and you can also keep this data in RDBMS tools. Okay, that is the purpose. Okay, ERD is a process. ERD is a process. So which is a process or which is a method or a method. Is not a software. ERD is a method or the process or a approach. Okay. ERD output, you can say, of ERD is a diagram. So this is what you have to understand. Okay, diagrams are easily can be understandable by all stakeholders. It is for a client as well as for the bill for the technical people and non-techies. Non-techies means you may have manager, you may have client, all of them. Okay, this is the purpose of ERD. Why we have to use ERD? Need for modeling, precise description, clear understanding to derive precise data requirements. I have physical system like this. Now I have to capture only the data. So how do I do that? I have to use ERD modeling. DFD and ERD already. So let us understand what is the agenda for today's session. Definition of an entity and how to identify an entity. What is a relationship? What is an entity attribute? Difference between entity and entity instance. And difference between entity and attribute, what is the primary key, foreign key, candidate key, alternate key, and arity, and all these are few agenda points which are going to be discussed in this session. Okay, to understand ERD modeling, let me take a case study. The case study I'm going to use is a bookshop. Okay, so a client came to you. The client is telling about his bookshop. I have a bookshop in say Hyderabad, and I have 4 to 5 branches, or I have multiple branches all over Hyderabad and Secunderabad. Okay, so I have a bookshop has lots of branches, but the branch is responsible for storing and selling the books, and the publisher is the person who's going to publish the books for us, and author writes the books, and customer buys the books. So he is narrating about his bookshop. Now, as a technical guy, you should be able to capture, or automate or computerize his bookshop. So that means what he's telling, I have a bookshop that is the main branch is in Amirpet, and I have lots of other branches all over Secunderabad and Hyderabad, and each branch is responsible for storing and selling books. We'll have lots of publishers who are publishers, and we have many authors who are writing, and customer comes to us, and they buy books from us. Okay, now when he gives the requirements, you have to capture the entities from this document. Okay, now you have to understand what is an entity. ERD means entity relationship diagram. The question is, what is an entity? Entity means which is distinguishable item. Distinguishable means a unique item. Okay, so from this, whatever he gave, from this you have to identify what is known as a the ERD. The step number one is you have to identify entities. Okay, identify all entities, but the question is, what is an entity? Entity means which is a distinguishable item, which is a unique item. That's what you have to understand. Okay, for example, I have a pen, I have a marker. The pen is different than the marker. Hence, pen is an entity, marker is an entity. Student is a separate entity, faculty is another entity. Patient is an one entity, doctor is another entity, because patient is different than the doctor. Computer is different than the TV. So TV is entity, computer is another entity. So you have male, male is different than the female. So you have male is an entity, female is another entity. Like that, you can see lots and lots of entities in this world. Okay, hero, heroine, comedian, villain, patient. Okay, marriage is different than the birthday party, or birthday party is different than the some marriage party. Like that, marriage is one entity, interview is another entity, because interview is different than the birthday party. Birthday party is different entity. Entity means which is unique and which is distinguishable. Okay, so you have to identify all entities, but the question is, how do I identify? Now you're saying identify, but how do I do that? That is a question people would ask. How do I identify? How do I find entities? The answer is, what is the answer? Identify nouns. Identify nouns. Each noun is an entity. That's what we have to understand. Identify all nouns. What do you mean by noun here? Bookshop is a noun. Branch is a noun. So now we have publisher is a noun. Okay. And author is a noun. Customer is a noun. Okay. You identify all the nouns. Each and everything would become a entity for you. It is very, very simple for you to understand. How do I do that? You have to identify and start drawing the diagram. So bookshop is a noun, and author is a noun, and publisher, books, all these are different entities. So in the diagram, all the nouns need to be entities. Entities need to be in the rectangle boxes. Okay. So you have to identify. There is no sequence. You can identify anything first, anything next. So there is no sequence as of now. This is the step number one. You have to identify all nouns. Okay. Now once you do that, then you have to go for the step number two. What is the step number two? Step number two. Okay. Identify. Okay. Ships between entities. Okay. Step number two. So let me identify the relationship between the entities. So you have bookshop has branch. Publish branch stores sells books. Publisher publishes books. Then author writes books. So like that, all the red has stores, sells, purchases, writes. All these are verbs are nothing but they are connecting two nouns. They are connecting two nouns. That is the relationship. Now you have to build complete relationship in the diagram. So now you have a sequence in the diagram. Bookshop has branch, branch sells books, and branch stores books, and author writes books, and publisher publish books. You can also have, you know, customer. I did not have the customer here. Customer buys books. You can have a customer here, and you can say customer can buy a book for you. When you have a relationship, all the entities will be sequenced. Okay. Now you may have single relationship like this, and you may have a cells and the stores. You may have multiple relationships. Okay. So entities may have single relationship, or entities may have multiple relationships. Sometimes entities may not have relationship. What is the relationship between author and the bookshop? There is no relationship. So they're indirectly connected, but there is no direct. So entities may have relations, may not have relations. They may have single or they may have multiple. So this is the step number one. The next one is identify attributes. Step number three. Step number three is identify attributes. Attributes for each entity. Now, what are the attributes I have to identify? That means if I say bookshop, bookshop will have bookshop ID, bookshop name, bookshop landmark, bookshop telephone number, URL. All of them are the different attributes for the bookshop. When I say book, book name, book price, book number of pages, the publisher name, author name, all of them are the different attributes for the book. When I say student, student is an entity. What are the attributes for the student? Student ID, student name, student address, student qualification, student date of birth, student gender, and all these are different attributes for the student. Like that, you have to identify each and everything. Then you have to draw like this: name, address, and all these you have to keep like this. Okay? So I have written only a few attributes, but you have to identify as much as possible for each and every entity. Clear? So you have to list them below the entity in the diagram. So if you take publisher, publisher name, publisher ID, publisher address, publisher telephone number, all of them you have to include. So this is step number three. Is so this is not needed. What is entity and what is entity instance? For example, when I say student, student is an entity. Kavya is entity instance and Fani Kumar is another entity instance. If I say faculty, faculty is entity. Mr. Bhaskar is faculty entity instance. Mr. Ravi Kumar is another faculty. He is also another entity instance. If I say hero, hero is entity. Kamal Hassan is a entity instance. Rajnikant is another entity instance. Then we have Amitabh Bachchan is another entity instance. That means entity is hero. The different Balakrishna, Chiranjeevi, all these are different entity instances. Okay. If I say company, company means a bookshop. Okay, so for example, you take Microsoft, IBM, all these different companies. Okay, like that. A company is an entity. All different names are entity instances. Okay. Sometimes you may have a single instance. Sometimes you may have multiple instances. For example, how many Microsofts do we have in this world? We have only one Microsoft, but they have multiple branches. Multiple branches. So how many bookshops I have? I have only one bookshop, I told you, but I have many branches. If you ask me, a bookshop I have only one. That means it is a single instance entity. Bookshop is. When I say book, I may have lots of books. So book is the example for multiple instance entity. Okay. So sometimes entity may have a single instance. Sometimes the entity may have multiple instance. But entity cannot have a zero instance. That is wrong. Okay. So this is a entity versus entity instance. So identify key. Hmm? The step number 3. Step number 4 now. We are in step number 4. Identify key each entity. Okay. Now the question is, what is a key? Okay. Na? The question is, what is a key? Let us understand what is a key. Now you have author ID, you have passport number, you have a driving license number. All these three are the attributes, but all these three are known as keys. But let us understand what is a key. Key means or more attributes that uniquely identify an entity instance. For example, I have 10,000 students in a big auditorium. Okay, I have 10,000 students in the big auditorium. I am distributing prizes to winners. I'm saying, Mr. Bhaskar, please come and take the prize. If I say Bhaskar, I'm using a name. So I may have couple of Bhaskars, multiple Bhaskars come to the dais and they'll say, and sir, please give me the prize. But I am referring a single Bhaskar. But when I say Bhaskar, many people have confused. They don't know which Bhaskar. Okay. Even I am confused who is the Bhaskar I am referring to. So instead of saying name, what I do is I say student ID 1234. Please come on, come to the dais and please collect this gift. So how many people you will get it? You will get only one. So student ID is a key. ID is a unique, but name can be duplicated, but ID cannot be duplicated. So which is unique? That attribute is known as a key. Now, or I can say Aadhaar card number A12345. This Aadhaar card number person go to the dais and collect his gift. So when I say the Aadhaar card number, or when I say card or the passport number, all these are to become keys because all of them are unique. All of them are unique. I may use cell phone number, Aadhaar card number, or student ID, or passport number to identify a single student from group. So all these are called keys. All these are called candidates to become a key. Usually, they have always unique values. Hence, they are called candidate keys. What are they? Here we are talking about author ID, passport number, driving license number, cell phone number. All these are called candidate keys. Okay, but out of which? Okay, so 1 minute. So let me put this. Now here, when I say author ID, passport number, driving license number, and all these are called nothing but a keys, but these keys you may have many attributes are keys here, because author ID can be used to identify a single student or single author. You can use PAN card number to identify a single student or author, or you may use passport number. So all these are store unique values. All these are called nothing but a keys for you. Okay, but out of these three, out of author ID, passport number, DL number, what is the primary key? The primary key would be author ID. Okay, because every author will have a author ID, that would be primary key. You will have passport number. Now is this clear to you, Fanny? Is it clear or not? Okay, fine. Okay, so when was this happened? Only in the keys, is it? Fanik, did you understand the before entity and entity instance? Okay. Okay, now it is fine, is it? What is a key or not? So now, okay, you can just mute that. Thank you. So you have author ID, you have passport number, DL number, all these three called candidate keys. So out of the candidate keys, you have to choose one key as a primary key. Remaining keys would be a alternate keys for you. That means author ID would be primary key here, and passport number, DL number, driving license number, passport number, cell phone number, Aadhaar card number, all these are called alternate keys. Okay. Now, in your example, you're a student. You will be having a student ID, and you will be having passport number, DL number, social security number. All these three are called a alternate keys. Okay. So, candidate keys equals to the formula. Okay. So, candidate key means what? Key means the column or the attribute which has unique values. Okay. Whatever be the attribute, the attribute can be student ID, cell number of the student, or PAN card number, or passport number. All these are initially they will have unique values, cell phone number or cell number or phone number. So all these will have unique values. So these four are whatever, if you have Aadhaar card number also, all these are five are called candidate keys. Okay, but out of which you choose one key as a primary key. Now what is the primary key in this? The primary key would be the remaining keys are called alternate keys. What are the alternate keys here? Then cell number, then passport number. All these are the uh, alternate keys. Okay, candidate key equals to, there is a formula, primary key plus alternate keys. So this is the formula you have to understand. A primary key and alternate keys put together, you can have a candidate keys. Okay. So what is the purpose of a key? The question is, what is the a key? Okay. So the answer is used to retrieve a single a group of instances. Okay. So key is used to retrieve a single instance from a group of instances. Okay, that is the purpose of a key. So key is is not a mandatory for each and every entity, but which is recommended to have. If you have one entity, that is good for. When you have a primary key or alternate key, that is very easy for anybody to retrieve a single customer or single student ID. Okay. So key is not mandatory for each and every entity, but which is recommended. You have to be very clear on this. Okay. So what is a key? Key is an attribute. The using that attribute, you should be able to identify a single instance from the group of instances. Now sometimes one attribute is not sufficient. So if you see the diagram, or abbreviation, one or more attributes that uniquely identify. One attribute means, I told, SID is a single attribute, PAN card number is a single attribute. Sometimes you have to understand more, you have to use more attributes to describe the key. For example, you were traveling in a train, your friend, hey, today I'm going to go by train, please come to railway station and let us meet. Then when I say my seat number is 22, please come there and meet. So can he come to the station and meet? You told the seat number of yours. It is very, very difficult for him to, find out you in the 22. What all you need to provide? You have to provide train number, plus you have to provide coach number, to provide seat number. Sometimes one value cannot identify a single person. Train number say 1234 plus coach number say S3 S3 plus the seat number is 22. That means sometimes one attribute cannot give you a single person. So seat number alone cannot identify, or coach number alone cannot identify single passenger. Okay. So sometimes you have to provide multiple attributes to identify a single instance. So this is known as a composite key. What is a composite key? Composite key means key has multiple attributes. Okay. A key which has multiple attributes is known as a composite key. Okay. So primary key or alternate key can be composite. Sometimes primary key can be composite. Composite means what? A key has multiple attributes. Okay. Or alternate key also can be composite. Here the best example would be, this is the example. You can remember this. What is the example? Train number, coach number, seat number put together will identify a single passenger, but not only the coach number, not only the seat number. Okay, I'll give you one more example. Now have a big complex where you have a tower A, and this is your complex where you have a tower A and a tower B. Okay, and this is tower B. In tower you have 1 to 50 houses. So house number 1 and house number 2, like that you have 50 houses. Okay, and tower number B also you have 1 and house number 2, like that you have 50 houses. Okay. Now you are going to go to this apartment, and when you ask, see, I would like to go to house number 22 or I would like to go to house number 15. The security will ask you, sir, which is the tower number? Okay, that means to identify a single house, you have to tell two things. What are the things you need to tell? You have to say, the another example is, you have to say tower number plus house number. So tower number you have to say A, I have to go to the house number 12. Okay. So put together you can identify a single house. This is the best example for composite key. So sometimes one attribute cannot give you a single instance. You have to tell at least two or three attributes to identify a single person or a single house. or single customer. Okay, so this is known as a composite key. Okay, now terms we have understood is what is a key, and key can be a single attribute, key may have multiple attributes, that is composite key, and you may have candidate keys, primary keys, alternate keys. Then one more key we're going to discuss tomorrow, that is foreign key. Okay, so today we're going to stop it here. So you go through this topic, and if you have any clarifications you can just ask. Okay, so this is as of now. We understand what is ERD modeling, and how we have to capture the data of a business using this modeling. Okay, this modeling will give you a diagram. Using the diagram, you can easily understand a company's data. A company's data. Okay. Okay. So I'll upload this video to you. You would be able to get the video through the Dropbox. Okay. Thanks. So you would be having, my number, right? So I think you know my number, and you know my this one also. But anyhow, I'm just writing my number. Just have, if you have any doubts, you can just call me on this number, or you can mail me if you have any queries. Okay. This is for Kavya also, so you can just look at it. Okay. So Bhaskar Jogi, gmail.com. Thank you guys. Tomorrow we'll meet at 10 o'clock. Okay.
Okay.
Hope you are able to understand and enjoying the sessions.